Hi everybody, it's Miss Lorenz here. I'm going to talk about 1.7, 1.8, and 1.9 all together for 7th grade. And that's because we're working with operations with integers, and those three can be combined pretty easily. So after getting through 1.7, 1.8, and 1.9, I'd like to do a superset with you. So keep that in mind. Before we go on, I want to remind you of what you know about multiplying and dividing integers. So when it comes to adding and subtracting integers, it's way harder. Adding and subtracting integers, you really have to reason through whether the numbers go left or right. But when you multiply and divide integers, all you need to do is multiply the numbers and then apply the correct sign. So in my opinion, it's way easier. So here's what you know. You know a positive times a positive is a positive. You've been doing multiplication of positive numbers since 3rd grade. Now we're going to be working with negative times a positive. So if there's one negative, the answer is negative. So that's whether it's a negative times a positive or a positive times a negative. Here's the new one is a negative times a negative is a positive. So if the signs are the same, it's a positive. Signs are the same, it's a positive. If the signs are different and you're multiplying them, the answer is negative. That's all there is to it. So look at this example, 36 divided by negative 9. Positive divided by negative, we know the answer is going to be negative. 36 divided by 9 is 4. It's as easy as that, you guys. 0 divided by 8 is 0, but 8 divided by 0 is undefined. So I wanted to make sure I got that in because we can divide, we can have 0 divided by a number and get 0, but we can't divide by 0. So you might want to write in your notes, you can't divide by 0. Okay. And then I just did a few example problems. So here I have a negative 2.5 times a negative 7/10. Well, right off the bat, I know a negative times a negative is a positive. So I'm just going to multiply 2.5 times 7/10. I know 2.5 has to become an improper fraction for me to multiply it. So I'm left with 5/2 multiplied by 7/10. And I'm left with 7/4. And that gives me 1 3/4. You can divide in a complex fraction. This is a fraction divided by a fraction. So right off the bat, it's a negative divided by a positive, so I know my answer has to be negative. Then I'm just going to divide it like I normally would. So negative 9/10 divided by 1 3/5. I'm going to have to change this to an improper fraction, which is 8/5. So I've got negative 9/10 divided by 8/5. Remember, we're going to change, flip, so we're going to keep this one as a negative 9/10, change the sign to multiplication, multiply by the reciprocal, so 8/5 becomes 5/8, and when we cancel out our factors and multiply straight across, we end up with negative 9/16. And then lastly, here is a type of problem you might see in those sections, 1.7, 1.8, and 1.9. A problem like this. So we're looking at a change in temperature of negative 54 degrees. So that means the temperature dropped 54 degrees over a 22.5 minute period. So we want to figure out what's the change per minute. So this is a division problem. We're going to want to divide the change by the minutes because we want to know change per, so we're going to say for the division, and these are our minutes. So we're going to take negative 54 divided by 22.5. So I'm going to rewrite it straight out, negative 54 divided by 22.5. I'm going to need to change 22.5 to improper fraction, and when I do that, I get 45/2. And then when I change it to a multiplication problem, I multiply by the reciprocal. That's why you see 2/45 here. Then I cancel out some factors, and I end up with negative 12/5, which is equal to negative 2 2/5 degrees per minute. So I always want you to pause and think, what did I just find? Here's my answer, negative 2 2/5. What does it mean? Well, it means that the temperature dropped 2 2/5 of a degree every minute. And it did that for 22.5 minutes. All right. I hope that helps you guys get going. Remember, after you're done with all the problems for 1.9, I look forward to doing a superset. Thanks for listening.